Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey everybody, this is Alex. This is the Ramble. We go until midnight tonight from New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Larry Bubbles Brown, and he's not living in a tent in San Francisco yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Hopefully he won't have to. Hopefully the career will keep zooming upward. By the way, yeah,
I was going to say that if you want to live in a tent on the street here, apparently you can, because some federal judge ruled that if San Francisco doesn't provide shelter for these people, they can live on the street.
Oh, okay. Well, does San Francisco provide shelter?
No.
Okay.
Well, to some they do, but they put them in hotels for a while, and that didn't work out.
What's wrong with hotels?
Well, the hotels wound up, I think they got about $5 million worth of damage because
I'm just thinking, was there some kind of poor person who said, this is a nice hotel, but it doesn't beat a tent?
Yeah, well, apparently, because a lot of these people are mentally ill.
With a tent, we have pride of home ownership. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we talked last week about all the downturn of San Francisco, and it's my hometown. It's where I was born. I was born there.
But there's no tents in New York.
I hear there are, but I haven't seen them. I mean, I don't know what part of town. I mean, let's face it, New York is the kind of town where you got a great neighborhood here, and then you turn the block, and it's a bad neighborhood. So where are they going to put up the tents? Also, I don't know that this right now, I mean, it's getting warm, but during the winter, you don't want to live here on the streets, But we've had problems with our poor, especially during COVID. The problem is that they decided that they wanted to close the subways at 1 in the morning and keep them closed till 5. And from 1 to 5, they were going to do all the cleaning. So what they had to do was push out all the homeless people. And so they pushed all the homeless people out. And so where do they wind up? On the street. We have this big kind of whenever they fix an apartment building, whenever they do what they call parking, which is putting new cement between the bricks on a building, they have to put up these sheds that go around the building, so if anything falls, it's not going to hit somebody, okay? So they have to have these sheds. Well, what happens, you put up these sheds, and all of a sudden, I call them homeless shelters, because what happens is all the homeless people decide to sleep under them. So, I mean, that's not fun. And so we've got all these homeless people that hang out under our building, and I'm just hoping very soon we should be through with that, and when they do it, I don't think we'll have homeless people there any longer. But Well,
I remember 1975. New York was broke, and they asked the feds for money, and Gerald Ford said no. Do you remember this?
Yeah, but
some big headline said, "Ford to New York, go to hell."
No, drop dead. Drop dead. That was the headline. I mean, and somehow whenever we ask for money, we don't get it. I told you about the migrants they're shipping up here from Texas and Florida on buses. The buses come in every day, literally filled with immigrants, which, okay, I'm all for the immigrant population. I believe that this is America, and we say could be this is your home, this land of the free, home of the brave, whatever you got. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to live free or breathe free. All of that, I believe in that. I believe this should be that kind of refuge for people who want to find a better life. But then they get here and they kidnap them, literally. They put them on a bus and say, we're taking you to Amarillo or something. The next thing they know, they're getting off the bus in New York City. And the mayor's there to greet them. What a stupid mayor. Anyway. But
every time I see your mayor, the only thing he says is, "I'm on a plant-based diet." That's all I hear him say.
Well, he's eating his own. Anyway, so what happened is that they get off these buses by the thousands, and of course they're then our problem. And we're not about ready to tell them, "Well, screw you, you're going to starve to death." We got to do something with them. Because New York is a liberal city, and we do care about human beings, and so we got to do something about it. So we do something about it. What do we do about it? Well, we put them up in hotels that will take them. We do all this stuff, and the cost of all of this so far has been $4 billion. Jesus. Right? That's $4 billion out of my pocket. Well, with the taxes I pay the city, that's 13 cents out of my pocket. But $4 billion. And that's $4 billion we don't have. Okay? This may be a fairly wealthy city, and it is if it doesn't have things like a bunch of people coming into it every day, and that we've got to take care of. So we spent $4 billion. The mayor asked Biden, give us some money to take care of this. We haven't seen a penny yet, so far as I know. This has been a terrible thing for us. But we don't want these people living on the street, So,
no, but I think maybe the border should not be wide open. I don't know why millions of people are coming in. That's not good.
You know what's happened? This is amazing. Amazing little fact, okay? And then you tell me what you think was the reason. They had this Title 42 in which they were limiting the people that could come in because of Title 42, which was because of COVID. They didn't want a lot of people coming in who might have COVID. And we all know that people south of the border are diseased and undoubtedly had COVID more than we did. I'm being facetious, folks. So Title 42... they were coming across at 11,000 a day. All right? When Title 42 ended a few days ago, we're recording this a few days after it ended, all of a sudden it dropped to like 4,000. And they think it's going to drop even more. Now, they dropped restrictions, and the amount of people trying to get in went down. Go figure, right?
That's weird.
So who do we blame for this crush at the border? Certainly not Biden. He didn't create Title 42. But who did? Donald Trump. So really, Trump was the reason we had all these migrants flooding the border. Because they wanted to get in because it looked like they were closing them down. It's kind of like when you say, by the way, don't come here because things blah, 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 and then all of a sudden people rush there because they're not supposed to rush there. There was something to that was causing more people to want to come across the border. But right now, by the numbers we have, we're getting down to the normal numbers we always had. So
well, that would be good because there's been I forget how, I thought they said 3 or 4 million people have come in the past couple of years.
Well, what are we going to do with these people? These are people, to begin with, these are not like criminals looking for soft touch. These are people who came from countries where they've been oppressed, they've been brutalized by gangs, and so on, and they want to come to the United States
because of all the work we've done overthrowing governments in Central America.
Yeah, exactly. We've given them a better life down there by overthrowing the communists so the dictators could take over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they come up here and they're looking for a better life, and they're many of them are walking all the way, or they're hopping on what they call a death train, in which people die all the time because they fall off of them. And they're going through very extreme circumstances to get here. Well, you got to admire that. You can't be, it's not like they had it easy getting here. And they came here for a better life. And who are we not to allow them that dream? That's the dream of America. That's the dream all Americans have had. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right, but I think you can't have the entire world march in. You have to have some, I think, number controls on how many people can come in per year.
This limitation of immigrants is not new. It's existed throughout the history of the United States. And when we did it during World War II, who couldn't get in here? Jews. Jews weren't allowed to come in, much like the South Americans are not being allowed to come in now. It's always been a different group, but it's always been a different xenophobia that we had against those groups. And so, when I look back at the history of the United States, hey, if I was a Jew trying to get into this country to get away from Nazism, I would be turned away at the border. I had a friend who was Jewish who was, got away from Germany, and they got on a boat, and they had to go to Cuba. And then when they got to Cuba, because they had some money, they had to pay the Cuban government enough money to make them a Cuban citizen so they could then get on a boat and go into the United States. Well, that's the way Jews got away from Nazi Germany. In the beginning, Hitler said, I will give as many Jews as any country wants to take. And I think there were a few that took them, but the only one that took 1 million Jews was Francisco Franco in Spain, and they could never figure out why.
Really?
Yeah. He took 1 million Jews in. He told them, he said, look, you're allowed to come in here because I want because you want to get away from the concentration camps in Germany. But once you get here, I want you to do everything you can to leave here and go somewhere else, because we can't take that many people coming into the country. And he was very positive about the Jews. And
that's interesting. So I wonder what his relationship with Hitler was, since they're both fascists.
He had a good relationship with Hitler. That's why he was able to get 1 million Jews. Because Hitler said, look, I don't want to have to gas these people. That's too much trouble. If you just take, if some country will take them, we'll give them to you. And the United States wouldn't take them.
That was FDR.
England wouldn't take them. So
FDR made some bad decisions.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, when it came to Jews, we could have saved a lot of Jewish lives if we had just not...
I never knew that about Frank. That's amazing.
Yeah. In fact, that's what happened with my friend. He went to Spain, and then he went from Spain to Cuba. That was usually the route a lot of people took. And because we had a good relationship with Cuba at the time, we would not deny anybody who was a citizen of Cuba, even if he was a citizen from yesterday, So, I mean, we've always had these policies, and it's always been based on a certain xenophobia of a particular race. You know who it was out on the West Coast for years? Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
Chinese,
terrible treatment.
They only allowed them to immigrate here because they would work the railroads.
Work on the railroads.
Yeah.
But I just don't like people, so it's not xenophobia with me. I just think the less people, the better. Well,
I had my friend Jack Garfine, who had been in 11 concentration camps. He graduated. No, he was in 11 concentration camps, and he said that the human race is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
He said the human race is horrible. But individuals are okay. They're great. They're wonderful individuals. And he talked about one case where he was in. I think it was in. He was in. What was the big Auschwitz? He was in Auschwitz, and they were doing this kind of like death march thing where you had to keep walking. If you stumbled and fell, they just pulled out a gun and shot you. Okay. So he remembers that he was pretty tired and it was pretty grueling, and he almost started falling, and a Nazi guard, picked him up by his arm and said, "Hold on to me," and he walked him the rest of the way. He said that man saved my life. He said it was a Nazi guard at Auschwitz. And he said, that guy saved my life. He said, so individuals are capable of wonderful things. He says, but the human race as a group is terrible.
That's what George Carlin said. He said, individually, most people are fine. You get them in a group, they're dangerous.
That's probably true. That is probably true. But, I've never had a great deal of love for this country when it comes to their protestations of certain things. And I always bring up the fact that they didn't take any Jews into this country. Oh, maybe if you had a lot of money, they would. But just the average Jew. If I lived in Germany, I would have been dead already. It's amazing, and it's amazing that we don't know how to solve this problem. It's not like it's the biggest problem in the world, But if we had a little heart and a little compassion, we could probably solve the problem in no time. But we don't. That's my argument about it. I see where you're coming from too.
Yeah.
I mean,
everything with humans generally evolves into a fight and then a war.
Believe me, I completely understand. It's hard enough being a comic without having some South Americans competing with you. So.
They're taking the jobs.
Yeah. But it's it's really something. I got to tell you, it's really something. We live in a weird country right now. It's not the country I signed up for. Remember when you were a kid what they told you this country was all about?
No, yeah, and that's
land of the free, home of the brave. And I believe that our borders were open because we believe that people have the right to. This is a country of immigrants. That's all it is. Almost everybody who lives here can trace his lineage back to the old country. So the idea that we are going to stop immigrants from coming in, I think we just have to figure out a method to do it. Do you know how long it takes? They have these people come in, they seek asylum, so then they get asylum, and they're supposed to show up for court in order to, plea their desire for asylum. Do you know how long it takes before you get to a court?
I think it's years.
5 years.
Yeah.
By that time, you've created a family, gotten a good job, become a productive citizen of this country, been paying it taxes, and now you've got to go fight for your life 5 years later? I mean, it's amazing. It's just amazing. We have to change the system. That's all. And the system was created by Congress, so let them solve it. So.
Yeah, it's not working. Whatever we've got, that's for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, so how are things going in comedy, my friend? I always ask you that.
Things are going okay. Let's say I'm doing okay. I'm going to work with Bobby Slayton June. June 10th. I'm with Dana Carvey. Then Bobby Slayton's coming up here out of retirement on June 13th to Mill Valley.
He's doing the little place in Mill Valley. What is that?
The Throgmorton Theater. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is he doing that?
Out of retirement to do a set. So.
Good.
And he loves Mill Valley too, so he wants to stay.
I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. And he's
the best.
He seems pretty happy not working.
That's what he told me, but man, I think he's such a great comic. I hate to see him not working.
It's kind of like Jascha Heifetz, who most people don't even know who I'm talking about, was a great violinist. It'd be like if Jascha Heifetz said, I don't think I'm going to play again. You know? I mean, when you're the best that there is, you keep doing it. And it's a shame when you don't. And comedy is his instrument, and he plays it miraculously well. I mean, I don't know of a comic who doesn't think he's the best.
Chris Rock said he's the best club comic in America.
Yep. And there's no question about it. But, he just says the business has passed him by. He's too old. They like young comics. Do you find that's your problem?
I think that's always been true, but I think you can find, as you age, you can find your own audience. You play people that are a bit older than what go to the clubs, but they're out there.
Well, but you're opening for people. You're a great opening act. I mean, you're the act. If I were a comic who was the headliner, you're the guy I'd want to have come before me, because you set up the room.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody to go up there who destroys the room, who turns the room. And I don't know if people know what we're talking about. Explain turning the room to an audience who doesn't know what that means.
Once I was opening for Dana up in Oregon, and I actually got an encore, and somebody told, oh man, he must have loved that. And I said, no, you don't want. You want to get the room focused, but you don't want to get the room going, so he has to work harder to get them focused on him. So you just got to set the room up. You don't have to kill. You just have to.
I think the reason I would want you is for exactly that reason, that you don't think you have to top the headliner.
No, but I know a lot of, like you said, a lot of comics want to go out there and, hey, I'm going to make it hard for him to follow me.
Yeah, follow that motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's that's what's great about you, and that's why they like you. Is because
here's another story. I won't tell you who it was, but Dana had an opener, and when you open for him, he likes you to do 12 to 16 minutes, and the guy that was opening for him one night did 38. So.
Oh boy, I bet he was backstage fuming.
Oh, he wasn't happy.
and the guy was probably not turning the room, not doing that great, but he just probably wouldn't get off.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's why you're working. You found your place, and you're happy with it.
I'm happy with it, yeah.
I mean, you've been a headliner some places, right?
I used to do the B Room, the early 90s, yeah, and I never liked it. So.
You never liked being a headliner?
No, it's too much pressure. You got to do I don't like doing long sets.
I don't think I ever put you on last.
No, you put me on second or third, which is perfect.
Usually, I probably made you many times open.
Never open. No, you always had. I think my energy level was too low for that.
Okay, so I either made you. I usually had 5 people on the show, and you were usually.
Yeah, I would usually follow Kravitz.
You would follow Kravitz. Okay.
Yeah.
But the story is, I tell people, is that I change. A lot of people when they do, comedy shows. Let's say you got 3 people. They put the what they call the worst person first, and he's usually the MC. And then in the middle spot, you put the second best comedian, and you put the headliner. Well, my feeling was, and I usually had 5 comics, is that you take the second best comic you've got and put them first, right? And then
absolutely
you put the worst comic you've got in the middle. I'm not saying that I ever hired bad comics, but you take the one that was the least effective and put him in the middle. But you don't and people go, why do you start with the best comic? I mean, I told people, I remember telling our good friend, late departed friend Warren Thomas, I'm putting you on first. And he said, but I'm not that bad. And I said, no, it's because you're that good.
Right.
I want somebody opening up the show that is just going to say, this is going to be a funny show.
And that's where I think the clubs made it, to this day. The opening act is the guy that's least experienced, and opening a show is not easy. So we open a show and the guy's not doing that good. The audience starts to think, did I make a mistake coming here? You know?
Exactly. Hey, I just looked.
Right.
We've run out of time.
Yeah.
We've run out of time, my friend. Talk to you next week.
We will.
We will. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bubbles Brown.
Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Bubbles. See you probably next week. Actually, what happened was he got COVID. Yeah. Well, actually, I had a bunch of things where I couldn't do a show because I had COVID, and then last week on Friday I couldn't do a show because I was not feeling well, and so I wrote him. I said, we're not going to be able to do our usual thing because I've got too many of your interviews banked, as it were. And he said, well, that's okay because I'm not feeling well, and he talked about it, and as he described it, I said, do you think you might have COVID? And he said, yeah. I said, well, go over to Kaiser, the next time they're open, and go see them. And so he went and saw me. He had COVID. And he doesn't know where he got it. He's like me. Where did I get it from? I have no idea where I got it from. But, that's the way it goes. Anyway, let me bring in some of these people here. Hold on a second. Okay, there are only 2 of them right now. I'm sure it'll pick up as the hour goes on. And let's see here. We've got, there's Jeff. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Great.
Yeah. And Josh?
Hello?
Hello, Josh. Talk to me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah. Hello, and hi to everybody on what is an auspicious news day. Oh, boy. I don't know where to begin, boy. But I think Trump's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Josh?
Well, some places you go and you go in to use the bathroom, which is uncomfortable because you're not at home, and everyone likes to poop at home.
Mm-hmm.
But some places you go and you just have to, and some places have Time Magazine or Newsweek when all that stuff existed, or a newspaper or whatever. And apparently at Mar-a-Lago they have, classified documents in the bathroom. So,
can you imagine somebody going in there to take a dump?
People pass the time by reading.
Yeah.
And, what's wrong with studying up on our plan to invade Iran or something like that? You're an informed person when you leave there. That's a positive.
I never thought about that. The positives of Mar-a-Lago is that you're up on world affairs.
Well, right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So in Matt
Alan.
Gates' bathroom, you would find Boys Life magazine.
Possible.
That's possible. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know what kind of stupidity,
I thought it was funny, Josh.
goes on there, but I was
Well, you know what I thought today was, is Trump the stupidest man in America?
he's at least the most arrogant, if nothing.
Yeah, but how stupid can you be?
You're right. Yeah.
The government says, you've got our documents, turn them over. You go, well, come on by and pick them up. You have your lawyers there handing them out to him.
What do you want them for? Really?
Well, I know what he wanted them for. He wanted them to be able to have something to give to, say, another country so he could get favors. That's what he wanted with those.
I'm sure, yeah.
And he's sitting there at the head, what's the name of that country club he's got, out in New Jersey? And he's showing somebody this stuff, Yeah,
apparently. I was just reading an article about that. Some of the stuff is just, it's really stupid. I just have no idea why you would think that you would need to do that. And I've seen all these quotes, in the last little bit that I started looking into this, of him in 2015 or whatever, saying, one of the number one priorities that the country needed to do was to get these, classified information and leaks and all that under control, and the Hillary this, Hillary that.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do any of that. I mean, but I guess from the tidbits that I read there that a lot of information in his indictment about obviously knowing what he was doing, and about openly asking people to hide these things or to cheat or to not give them back or whatever. I mean, asked a couple of his lawyers if we could just tell them they're not here. I mean, what the
Nothing to see here.
right? I mean, it's just stupidity. And this guy that worked for him all these years, I don't feel sorry for that guy. I mean,
Well, I wonder if Trump's going to pick up his legal fees.
he won't. I mean,
Well, he better, because that guy's going to start squealing like a stuck pig.
well, he probably already has or whatever. But I mean, how's that working out for him? Working for someone like that. I mean, you should know better.
And listen, if you work for him and were a lawyer, you wound up in jail.
Yeah.
And these lawyers he's got now went out of their way to make sure they wrote down everything to make sure that he didn't get them in a corner where they were going to get in trouble for doing something for him. Yes,
I'm
Jeff.
sure that all these attorneys had to have agreements with Trump that the attorneys were never going to do anything against him.
Well, I mean, but I don't think that, let's say he's done something illegal, and now the government wants you to testify about him. None of what you would have signed with him is binding in a situation like that. No, it's not. It's not. No, because you can sign anything that somebody wants you to, as long as it isn't involved in a crime. This stuff is involved in a crime. I mean, what was it, 35 counts, 37 counts, something like that?
Yeah, that's what I heard, 37.
And Marjorie was sitting here looking at all of them.
Yeah.
And the toilet documents is what was just wonderful to look at. And then at one point they had these pictures. The government took these pictures, and there was a box that had literally fallen off, and all the documents were lying on the floor. And what they had to do with one of these documents that they took a picture of that was lying on the floor, they had to run a black line through it so you wouldn't know what it said. It was that classified.
I read some information that said, that the 37 counts is not does not really include every document. It's not. He had way more documents than that, but they chose not to charge certain counts so that the government would have the ability not to have to introduce those particular documents into evidence because they were so sensitive. They don't even want to. So he obviously had some stuff that they said, we're just totally going to not pretend this was ever here because it's that sensitive.
Well, they say that the government has a problem here, and so does the defense, in that the government doesn't want to mention what the really sensitive documents contain.
Yeah.
They said they would let the jury know. They would have monitors in front of them, and they could see them, but that they couldn't make them public because they are, what are they yelling about? That he was compromising these documents, so why should they do the same thing? But they're afraid that his lawyers are going to do it. And the judge, they're hoping the judge is going to say, hey, that's out of bounds. You can't do that.
I mean, they'll be able to contain them, or they'll be in a lot of trouble. But he's getting new lawyers again because they all left today. Or yesterday, whatever. So
well, I think they see a case they can't win.
Well, I mean,
or they're not going to get paid.
Or they're not going to get paid.
I mean,
or they're going to get in trouble. They're going to lose their law license and whatever. So they don't want any part of him. He's bad news.
Know, right? Who would want to be attached to him for any reason?
He's probably going to get some. Kim Kardashian is probably available, I guess, as a lawyer.
That's who he might get.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's amazing how pathetic that guy is. and how full of himself he is that he
Yeah.
thinks he can get away with something like this.
He's been doing that his
he
whole
might.
life.
He's been doing this. Somebody just said his whole life has just caught up with him. You know?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. The only thing they're worried about is the judge down there, is the judge that put a kibosh on the Mar-a-Lago stuff. And then the government had to come along and change that. They went to court, and another court admonished that judge. And she's the judge in the case. But
Really?
I'm thinking she's going to try and be a little more
Well,
honest
yeah,
about
she's
it.
been in trouble, and I mean, she does anything over the line, it'll get appealed, and it'll get turned around.
Well, the only thing the judge has to do in a case like this is rule on what can be admitted and not admitted and so on. And if it appears that she's being unfair, they can request a new judge. You know.
I mean, they'll work through that, but it's just
Well, somebody said, they could have done it in D.C., but they did it in Florida. There were a couple of reasons they say they did it in Florida. Number one, there's no extradition from Florida that has to happen, okay? Although extradition in a federal case doesn't, a state has no jurisdiction over whether or you can or cannot extradite somebody, because it's a federal case. It's not a local case. So, like with the thing in New York, they would have had the ability to extradite him, okay, because that was a local case. But they say that the reason that they're doing it in Florida is they don't want anybody to say the fix is in. They want to put him in some place that would normally be friendly towards him, and they think they probably got a strong enough case they can get him convicted anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's his home court. I mean, he gets convicted there. You can't cry foul. I mean, they will, but I mean, they can't. So, with legitimacy anyway. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, some of the stuff they did, I just don't know what, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, it's just like the stupidity of it. I mean, the arrogance of it. I mean, it's just.
Well, nobody got him in trouble except him. He's to blame. But what I hate is that if you go over to Fox, they say the Biden DOJ has charged Donald Trump. Well, it's not Biden's DOJ. It's no president's DOJ. The Department of Justice is controlled by the president, or at least it shouldn't be. It kind of was under Trump, but the fact is that DOJ, to say that this is Biden trying to get Donald Trump, so he won't run against him or whatever, is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's their thing that they'll cry about. That's his deal that he'll play over and over and over again. But I mean, they just have such a strong case. I mean, if it were like you or I mean, we would have, we wouldn't have this ability to go out and work the media and all that. I mean,
is he going to be able to plea bargain?
Well, I'm sure if he wants, I'm sure they would take it.
Oh, he's not going to admit he's guilty.
No, I don't think he
No,
would.
he's not going to admit his guilt.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he would do that. But I mean, someone like you and I mean, we'd probably be forced to, because the case is
to
not
begin with.
good. And I think if you look back at some of the cases of people who have done this, like the Snowdens and others, the public perception of it is poor, and I know he fled, but a couple of the people that have been caught, that went to trial, I don't think anyone ever was found innocent. That I know of. I mean, I think that woman, that reality winner, her name, was found guilty, and there were a few others. I mean, this kid that leaked all these documents from the air base or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you all know. I mean, he's going to have his trial, but I mean, does anyone think he's going to walk away?
No.
No,
not
he's going to
guilty.
be locked up forever.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's going to jail, right? I mean,
well, Drudge holds these straw polls, which are ridiculous because they're if people want a certain way to win, they can just over and over vote again and again and again and again. And they said, do you think Trump should wind up in prison? And the no's were about 63%, and the yeses were in the 30s. I stopped to think there for a moment, and I went, how can you even have a vote on something like that? I mean, do you think he should go to jail if found guilty?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, yes. I would say yes too.
Right.
They say, well, that wouldn't be good for the country. What do you mean it wouldn't be good for the country?
Then how do you put the next person in jail for it?
Yeah. I mean,
because there will be a next person. I mean, if he isn't guilty and doesn't go to jail, then this guy from the airbase, if we find him guilty, then what do we do when the trial's over? We just say, well, thanks for your time.
Well, you have to remember what Nixon did.
He quit.
Well, he just said, I quit. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. I didn't do any of those. So I'm just not going to be president anymore.
Well, he can't do that, though, because he's not president anymore. But he could.
Well, I know, but he can do something.
Oh, he could, not run. That's one thing.
That would be a good thing.
They could also order him as part of the, because it's a federal judge. I think that if they find him guilty and say, in exchange for jail, you promise that you won't run for president.
Yeah, that's too light. That's too light.
I agree, but at least it saves the country.
Well, no, I quite frankly, I'd like to see him run.
Really?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, Biden going out against a guy who's been indicted on conspiracy charges for what is it called?
Obstruction of justice, making false statements, and withholding evidence. I mean, that's not the official term there, but I mean,
and he lied all about everything.
Yeah. Liar.
Well, there's nothing illegal about lying in general. If you lie to the FBI or you lie to in court or something like that, there's a problem. But just lying to lie like he does.
No, he lied to the FBI.
He lied to the FBI.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And not just because he felt about what shoes he had on today. He did it because he had the secret information.
Yeah.
And who the heck he was going to do with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was watching Fox today because I always like to go over to Fox because it's kind of like going to another planet. It's like Bizarro World. Up is down, down is up. And I wanted to see what they were doing. Well, to begin with, in the early part of the day, they were actually pillaring Trump. They were not saying nice things about Trump. They were not candy coating the situation, which surprised me because you know how they are. But then as you got later on in the day, what did they switch to? Well, Joe Biden, they're looking into Joe Biden when he was vice president and when he wasn't vice president, taking money from Burisma in Ukraine. Okay. Well, I mean, all of a sudden they're doing that in order to not have to talk about the fact that Donald Trump was indicted. And these are some pretty serious charges.
Very.
What's the worst charge here? It's like I'm trying to remember what it is. It's
espionage.
Espionage. That's the word I was looking for. That's a pretty heavy thing to be accused of.
Yeah.
How many people during World War II were found guilty of espionage?
They were shot and killed.
Well, they were shot, but how many were actually even charged with it? I mean, that's a charge that you got to be pretty bad in order to get that.
I would be for if Trump gets convicted, if he chose the firing squad, I would shoot a rifle.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm not into killing people, but he's not really human.
Some guy on Fox today was saying, well, the Democrats want him to die in prison. Well, I don't wish him death. I don't wish him. I want him to live as long as possible in prison.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't. I mean, that's a.
And
Yeah, that's more their hyperbole. I mean, I think we don't feel that way. I mean, you know what I've said privately about this. I mean, look, he's did this to himself. I mean,
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
he has
he's
nobody
some garbage as a person. I mean,
he has nobody to blame but himself.
yeah.
That's
I mean, he's not a good person, and you know, comparing him to someone else is it doesn't matter because we're not talking about that. We're talking about.
Well, it was like Phil last night. By the way, Phil was wrong last night. I should bring this up. Phil last night went into this whole thing about, well, what about Hillary Clinton and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, you don't even bring that up because that doesn't, just because, you brought it up last night, just because they stop you for a ticket for speeding and you can't go, well, the guy in front of me was going faster. And they said, yeah, but we didn't catch him.
It doesn't matter, right? That's what I'm saying. You ran a red light. Well, I drive this route every day, and I see cars run that light all the time. Well,
fine. You're the one that got caught. But anyway, so
it's not.
So what Phil said last night was when I mentioned that they were going to hold this thing in Dade County in Florida, he said, well, Dade County is traditionally a Democratic stronghold. No, it's not. It is a redder than red.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I heard somebody say today, it's redder than red. It used to be Democratic, but now it's red, very red.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know specifically, but I know that it shifted a lot down there, even since, like I lived in Florida in 2001 for a while, and it's dramatically different than it is, than it is now. Just in the 20 years, it's completely transformed itself with people moving in, people moving out, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it doesn't matter where you have it. I mean, if he has a trial and he's found guilty, look, it was fair because all it takes is one person. It has to be unanimous. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is one person. So, I mean, if he goes through a trial,
I don't think it has to be unanimous, does it? No.
And you can't even get one person. I mean,
Josh is right. It has to be unanimous. You get one person that says no, and it's a.
I think that's only in capital crimes. I don't think that's in some cases. You just have to have a majority verdict. I mean, if they down there have to get a unanimous verdict, I don't know if they're going to get it. Okay.
You never know. I mean, that's why
my other thought is that he figures he would do this one in Florida. Just say, see how magnanimous we are. We don't want to put the fix in or make it look like the fix is in. And I don't know if you heard that Smith today talk to the press, but he said, he just stated everything very nicely, and he said we're doing this because nobody should be allowed to get away with this. But the thing I thought about was the reason he's doing it in Florida is he's saving the big gun for the January 6th trial, that's the next indictment that's going to have to come along, and that will be in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So,
it's going to be harder to prove that. That's why they took this one first.
No, I think this one is in many ways harder to prove. Because he's going to take the dog ate my homework defense, and some people in a jury might buy that. Oh, hey, I didn't know what I was doing. Well, they've got proof he knew what he was doing. He said he knew what he was doing.
Yes.
So it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's he's in big trouble. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's what he did to himself, and it's just the way that it's going to be. I mean, he doesn't really have a way out of it. I mean, the problem that he really has is he just has so much more that's still coming. I mean, he has to face that trial in New York. I mean, he's been indicted. He's not going to plead, so there has to be a trial,
but that's a civil suit. That's a civil suit.
Well, the criminal trial that he has in
is
New
that
York.
a criminal trial?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a civil suit.
No, I mean, he was charged with falsifying business records. I mean,
Felonies.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. I mean, he's been indicted now for felony crimes on multiple occasions. So,
And then also he's got the January 6th thing. And there's one other that I'm trying to remember now that he's got going too. Oh, the Georgia
yeah.
the thing is
Well,
supposed to.
right. That's what I'm saying. Is he has a lot more coming. I mean, it's going to be.
Where's he going to get
up? And I don't see how he gets through all of that without being found guilty of some stuff somewhere.
Where's he
not going to plead.
Where's he going to get all the money to defend himself? That's the problem.
No idea. I mean, I don't know. Because I don't really know how much financial ability he really has.
I would bet you he is close to broke.
Yeah, I think we all know that's a bunch of garbage. For people that think he's really wealthy.
That nobody really knows where he is financially.
Right.
Because you could imagine that somebody knows that.
Well, you've got Mar-a-Lago, and that is an asset. Okay, pretty expensive asset. But that's not billions of dollars.
Place, right?
Huh?
That was a Russian place that he bought.
Was it Russian?
I think so.
But I mean, he doesn't have the money. He's sending out. Phil sent me a thing he got from Trump saying, "Send me money. I need money. Take care of myself. We.
I might have to raise his prices for a room in this 5-diamond hotel in Las Vegas, Trump Tower or whatever it's called.
Yeah, well, all those things with Trump's name on it, he doesn't own.
No, probably not.
He sold the hotel in Washington.
I had reservations 4 years ago in the Bellagio, and the room they had set for me got flooded the night before, and so they were willing to move me to Trump Tower, and I said, nah, I'll go somewhere else.
Is there a Trump Tower in Vegas? I don't think so.
There's a Trump Hotel in Vegas.
Is there
on
a
the
Trump
strip.
Hotel?
I don't know if it's called Trump Tower, but it.
Well, I don't know if it's called Trump anything anymore. I'll tell you, we have two friends who lived in a Trump building here in New York, and they all, went out and did whatever they had to do, and got Trump taken off of the building, Trump's name taken off of the building.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Because they felt, number one, it made them a target. Number two, if they ever wanted to sell their apartment, which was a condo, it lowered the property value.
Wow.
And all these other places that have Trump's name on it, for the most part, are, except for Trump Tower, are just, he sells the name. That's what he did for a living. He would sell his name. Hey, you can put Trump this or Trump that on your building, and whatever. So
Trump had that golf place in Queens.
In Queens?
Yeah, it's a golf.
I don't think he has it anymore.
I don't think so.
He has a place out in New Jersey, and apparently I think he owns that, but who knows? And who knows how much in debt some of these places are because his name is on them.
Yeah, that's true.
Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. Midweek right now, you can get a room for $157. It's a 5-diamond hotel. $157.
It's a 5-diamond hotel.
It is.
I've never heard of 5 diamonds.
5-star hotel.
5 diamond.
Well, isn't that how AAA rates things in diamonds?
No,
Never heard of it.
Okay,
I think
that's
they
a
give it-
5-star hotel. Sorry.
Yeah, I imagine it's a pretty nice hotel. I mean, but does he own it? Is the question.
Yeah, I don't know. The corporation does. There's Trump Las Vegas, Trump Chicago, Trump Doral Miami, Trump Central Park, and Trump Waikiki. That's in the United States.
Yeah, the Doral was basically his golf.
Sure.
Golf. What's the word? I can't think of words tonight. His golf club down there in Florida, in the Florida area, And but it was some problem with it. It was losing money, I think, because he was trying to attract people to start playing their tournaments there, and they wanted nothing to do with him.
Well, the PGA Tour went to Doral for decades, every year, and it had a major tournament. Matter of fact, when they created World Golf Championship events, it had a World Golf Championship event, which was a premier tournament. That, you know, the World Golf Championships usually only took the top 50 or 60 players in the world, and they had huge purses, so they were mega events. And after he took over Doral, he had some of the golf course redone, and the players hated it, and the PGA Tour hated it. And then he was already on the fritz with them, and then he started running his mouth when he became president and was running, and the PGA Tour said, we don't want anything to do with this. That must have been back when they had scruples.
Yes, things have changed, haven't they?
You know,
2 years ago, they were yelling
took
at
it
people
away.
like Phil Mickelson for playing in the Saudi tournaments, and now they're, of course, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, but back then they said, you know, we don't want anything to do with it, and they took that tournament away from Doral. And, you know, a golf tournament for a premier golf course is something that makes it what it is. I mean, it's on TV once a year, and it gets
Otherwise,
money,
it's just another golf course.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is. I mean, you know, and it was sad when they went away from Doral. I mean, I used to love that tournament, watch it every, you know, but he basically ruined it, you know, which is neither here or there politically. I mean, you know, but it was just sad, you know, what happened. But, you know, the tour, they took it away. And he bought a golf course in Scotland or whatever.
Yeah.
It was part of the rotation for the Open Championship, which is, you know, one of the 4 major championships for golf. And they took it out of the rotation. They won't go there either.
Wow.
And that hurt that golf course tremendously. And he's still crying about that. There was a headline.
You know, he can't cry about any of this
he
because he's the master of his own demise.
Well, you're right. I mean, you know, and I mean, I remember even before he ran for president, because I was working in the golf industry, reading an article in a golf magazine from like 2013 or 2014 about a golf club somewhere that he bought. And obviously these are really premier clubs, and just reading an article about how as soon as he bought it, the membership, like a bunch of people resigned immediately because they know that every club he's ever bought, he's ruined, which is true. He has owned a lot of golf courses throughout the years, and people in the industry have always known that he comes in and he buys them. He does all kinds of stuff for 6 or 7 years, and he doesn't pay anybody, and he ruins it, and then he sells it and he gets out. And that's
he's known pretty much as being a stiff, isn't he? For stiffing people.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's why he's down to no lawyers right now, because he doesn't pay them.
I mean, right. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Nobody wants to defend them. Everybody that defends them gets in trouble or doesn't get paid or something.
Well, he keeps coming up with these new lawyers nobody ever heard of.
Yep.
You know, where's this guy gone that looked like he was a mobster? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think maybe he's the one he's keeping that's going to help him with this case, maybe. I heard he was keeping one of his lawyers, the one that had helped him in New York. And I think all the rest left, and he was making it sound like...
he fired them?
You know, yeah, like he got rid of him or whatever, but I'm sure that they were like, you know, I mean... there's got to be an old lady that slipped on a sidewalk.
Well, you send the guy a bill and he doesn't pay it for a while. You got to say, hey, I think I better cut bait right now. You know.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing, you know, what this guy's gotten away with, and a lot of people have stated that really it's just everything's coming to finally haunt him. You know, all these years of what he's done. You know, he's always been a crook. You know, he was a crook here in New York. And that's what I kept saying to Phil. And Phil, oh no, he's an honest guy. He's really? And last night, I think I noted that Phil wasn't about ready to say that he was on Trump's side anymore. You know?
He almost said.
Huh?
He almost did.
He tried to
Almost
say.
said it.
That he was still on his side or against?
almost.
No, he was kind of trying to be in
Well,
both ends.
yeah. I mean, look, it's just. I mean,
Well,
he's
if
got
any,
the same
if
kind
yeah.
of documents that like I said, other people took. I mean, I know he didn't leak them, so that's different. But I mean, it's just something like that is pretty clear.
Yeah.
I mean, the case in New York or whatever, I'm sure you can argue back and forth about. And I mean, you can argue any case, right? And the lawyers will do it. But I'm just saying, it's just not. I mean, I've seen 4 or 5 pretty big time lawyers, I guess, on TV in the last, day or so asked, what defense do you scheme up for this, and they all just kind of mumble around like I just did for a second. And they don't really have anything,
One of Trump's lawyers
you know.
2 days ago on Fox News said, and threw Trump under the bus, that is not the type of lawyer I'd want, but said, we're going to try and prove that he's not guilty.
Yeah.
Exact words. We're going to
try and prove he's not guilty.
Yeah, try and prove that he's not guilty.
To begin with, the
Everybody
job.
assumes he's guilty.
Yeah, but the job of correct me if I'm wrong, but the job of a lawyer is not to have to prove your client innocent. It's the job of the government to prove him guilty.
Right. But he says, I'm assuming everybody assumes he's guilty, so I'm going to try and prove that he's not
Well,
guilty.
no, I mean, listen, right now, I don't give him the presumption of guilt. I give him the presumption of innocence, as I should, as a good American. And, I between you and me, I think this guy's been getting away with murder for years.
Absolutely.
And then we made him president of the United States, which was insane. I'm saying this to all the people out there who are Trump acolytes. Come on. Time to give up the ghost, okay? This guy has always been a crook, okay? He's had a mob mentality. This thing right now is playing itself out like a mob movie. The things he's saying is like out of a mob movie. I mean, he's a mobster.
Yeah, he thinks he's Lucchese, or some big mobster.
Yeah.
Got a fantasy in his head. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not about. It's not about his politics. I mean, we've been over this before. I mean,
what politics?
Well, exactly. But I mean, it's not about Democratic policies or Republican policies or whatever. I mean, it's about his actions, and his actions here were illegal.
The one I love when you ask people, when you ask these MAGA people, well, what is it you like about Trump? And he says, well, I like the fact that he built that wall along the border, and he put a kibosh on immigration into this country over the border. Do you know the title? What was it? Title 42. That was the thing that was preventing people from coming in here from Mexico that Trump thought up because it was to protect us from COVID. You remember that?
Yep.
Well, Title 42 expired. I think I have the name of it right. Title 42 expired. And what do you think happened? The amount of immigration has gone down by 80%.
Wow.
80% less people are trying to get in this country from Mexico now than when Title 42 was in existence. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you think he had anything to do with stopping immigration into this country, he enhanced it with Title 42.
I don't know. All the news I see of El Paso, Texas.
Doesn't matter.
A lot of the Mexicans and others sat on the other side until Title 42 was done.
It has not increased. It has gone down by 80%.
Okay, it's not the news I saw.
Well, that's the news I saw.
Okay, I don't want to argue. I just want to.
It was on NBC News. On NBC News the other night.
I don't think Title 42 stopped anything.
Title 42, yeah. What?
Title 42. I don't think Title 42 stopped immigrants from coming in here. They still came in.
No, but what I'm saying is, with it in place, somehow, for some reason, there were 80% more people trying to get themselves into this country. The minute it went away,
Well, they handed them ballots that said vote Republican or something.
But the point is that what happened is that you could say that under Trump, more people were trying to get in than are trying to get in now with no Title 42 in existence.
Okay.
So whose fault was it? It was Trump's fault.
Well, yeah, I mean, immigration did increase under him a great deal. I believe of the last 4 or 5 presidents, the lowest amount of immigration on record was under President Obama. And it greatly increased after Obama left and Trump took over. Now, I don't know the numbers or whatever, X number of million or whatever it was, but there was a huge increase after Obama left and Trump took over in immigration into illegal border crossings. I mean, they were at a record low under the Obama administration, because they had some sensible policies and, proper security. But there were still issues down there, even then, just like there is now, because we have laws that make the issues, that no president yet has fixed. I mean, so...
Well, there's always been an issue down on that border. I mean, you don't see people flowing in over the Canadian border, do you?
Right.
Because nobody necessarily wants to leave Canada. But those people do want to leave where they've been because of the gangs and because of the crime and because of a lot of other things. And they're willing to risk their lives to come here. And you got to have some kind of respect for that. Yes.
So I think you're right, and I was wrong. I just read what Title 42 was. So when Title 42 was going on, we had more illegal crossings. Now what we have is more people crossing, but they're crossing to become legal. They're not crossing to be illegal. They're getting, because they know under Title 42 they'd get shipped right back if they got caught. So now they're coming in the legal way, getting documented and trying to become U.S. citizens.
Okay, so wasn't that the answer in the first place?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I said you're right.
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
But I'm saying this to any of those people who are like Trump fans. This guy was a terrible president. I mean, this guy, he reminds me when he's standing up there of Mussolini. He's got that Mussolini face. No, Mussolini.
Hitler.
Look at Mussolini. Really? Look at Trump, and basically, both of them are the same fat fuck.
Yeah.
And by the way, Mussolini had that arrogant, kind of thing that Trump has. So
I think it's funny when Trump gets pissed.
Yeah,
I can't even make the face, but
but
it's kind of like the look Phil has when he's constipated.
I mean, he's gonna have, he'll have his trials, I suppose, and I did look and verify for you that in both the state and federal levels for criminal trials, the verdicts do have to be unanimous.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought so.
There were some states that did not require unanimous verdicts, and a 2020 Supreme Court ruling overturned those and made every state have to go.
But if it's not unanimous, it's a hung jury.
It's a hung jury, and they can retry.
Okay. All right.
You're not guilty. Your trial is basically just
like it never happened.
Invalid. If there's,
and our government has a lot of money to retry him.
Oh, they can retry him till he has no money left.
Yep.
I know what you're saying, MAGA people. You're saying, well, he's got lots of money. He's a billionaire. No, he's not. No, he's not. That's the biggest lie.
Why would he be asking for money? A billionaire.
Yeah, why would he be asking for your money? Listen, he got himself into this trouble. Let him get himself out of it, okay?
There may be before this goes to trial. There may be a plea bargain.
I don't. You think he's going to even allow himself?
I don't know. Bargain? He doesn't have the money to hire good lawyers, so he sees himself going to prison.
I mean,
my question is, number one, on Tuesday, when he goes 3:00 in the afternoon Eastern time to court to show up for his indictment, is he going to be handcuffed?
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
Well, it's a federal charge. This is a heavy federal
Yeah.
charge, okay?
And
is he going to have to pay bail?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. Probably not.
Does
Probably
he?
not. Bail a lot of times is based on flight risk.
Well, is he a flight risk?
Well, they'll make him turn over his passport. I'm sure of that. And they may or may not have bail for him, but he can pay the bail. But they got to make it reasonable, you know. So he's not.
They don't make it reasonable for a lot of other people. They use it almost as a penalty.
Absolutely.
You know,
especially if you're a minority.
If I got charged with all this stuff, what do you think my bail would be?
Be pretty hefty.
It'd be really hefty.
Upwards in the $1 million range, maybe.
Yeah. Did they? So the kid that got arrested, is he out on bail or is he being held? I
think he's being
I didn't
held.
really, remember.
He's the flight risk, is what they said. I think he's being
And
held.
what's his name? You brought up what's his name? The guy that fled to Russia.
Well, Snowden, he ran.
Snowden. Yeah. What were Snowden's crimes as heinous as this?
I don't.
As heinous as the kid.
I mean, he leaked a lot of stuff. So, I mean, Trump at least didn't leak his to the public. I mean, I know he was showing them off to people, walking by.
But the question still has to be asked.
Posters and whatnot.
What was he doing holding on to all those papers?
That's the true question, right? I mean, that's the real question, if you ask me. That's what I'm saying. Is what good do they do you anymore that you're not?
Well,
president?
let's say
What do you want them for?
Okay, say you're good friends with Pooty Poot. Okay.
Oh, right.
Right. Didn't he call him Pooty Poot? Wasn't that one of his nicknames for him? But Putin. And let's say he wants to get him really good with Putin. Hey, Putin, you want to see how we're going to defend ourselves if you attack us? Here, I'll send it to you. I'll fax it to you.
I don't think he did it.
That's the problem with this.
That might be what he was going to do with it.
No, what I'm saying that what he saw was value in these documents to be able to sell them on some level, whether it was for a book or whether it was for, hey, listen, I would like a better deal from the Saudis for, a golf link over there.
That's the kind of stuff
that's possible. That's what espionage is.
Well,
right?
I mean, what else? Look, you're president. You've got all these documents, okay? What are you going to do with them if not try and sell them to somebody if you're nefarious? I mean, I don't think that Biden, when that stuff was found in his home, that was just a mistake. I mean, I'm sure they shipped some documents to his house when they were sending all the furniture from the White House and so on, and it wound up in his garage. Okay, so when they said, hey, look, we just saw you had some in your garage, okay, come and take them, come on. There was never any resistance on that. And it wasn't that Biden did it was anything but a mistake on Biden's part. Now, you could argue that, hey, at Mar-a-Lago, some of these documents got there because when they moved the furniture, some of this stuff got moved with it. People mistakenly, but there was so much of it that can't be the case.
Well, but what wipes all that out is the fact that if that were the case, they simply just give them back, right? I mean, hey,
I'm sorry I
looked in my suitcase for the first time since I wasn't president anymore the other day, and here was this file, right?
But also, they have him on. One of the things they supposedly have on him is that when they wanted those papers, when they wanted those things to be given to them, he hid them. So when they came to get them, they couldn't find them. And in one case, they flooded the swimming pool, so it leaked into the basement, and some of those documents got drenched.
Yeah, I mean, the indictment, says pretty much that he conspired to move them around so that they couldn't find him. I just, right before you came on, read a paragraph where one of his old lawyers apparently testified to them that he asked him to maybe take the box back to his hotel with him that night. And the Mar-a-Lago was going to get searched the next day. I mean, he literally, I guess, asked the guy to take the box with him to his hotel.
He buried his wife on the Mar-a-Lago property, his former wife. I wonder how many documents are in that.
In what?
in the coffin. She
Oh.
may not even be in the coffin. He may have said, "We don't have room for her. Just put the
No,
document."
he wants to have access to them. So,
But I mean, the puzzling thing to me the whole time has been, I mean, unless it really is just pure ego. I mean, why do you? What good do they do you anymore? I mean, they're not needed for memoirs or this things that presidents. I mean, what do you need the original copies of documents? I mean, these. I don't know. I don't know what good they are to you. I mean, the only reason that people ever really take these, I guess there's two reasons. One of them is to leak them because they want to leak them for a purpose of, a political purpose or a purpose of an injustice.
Or
When the other reason they
financial.
take them is to sell them to somebody and make money. That's the only
Yep.
two reasons that I really think of that
Yeah.
people usually ever take classified documents. I
Oh,
mean, this
Pootie
kid
Poo.
at,
By the way, Vernon Nunn wrote Pootie Poo. Pootie Poot was the nickname George W. Bush had for Putin.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So Putin said after Trump was out, they said the news, one of the news services interviewed Putin and said, "You and Trump are friends." He says, "We're not friends. While he was president, I used him like I would use any president. Now that he's out of office, he's nothing to me."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Putin's not stupid. He
Right.
knows he knows how to use presidents or whoever. If they're dumb enough to let him use them like Trump was. So.
John Redshaw writes me, no one's talking about Nada, the guy that, was his assistant.
he's in trouble.
Navy veteran or something like that. And
Well, he was indicted as a
co-conspirator.
co-conspirator.
Yeah,
That's-
but
we
they
talked
say
about him
they say
before.
that if he decides to flip on Trump, Trump's goose is cooked.
Well, they probably got him in protective custody then.
Something like that. And now we got
Oh,
guys,
okay.
we have Republicans in Congress kind of saying incendiary things that would make people want to make trouble, like January 6th.
Yeah.
One of them wrote an eye for an eye. I mean, it's terrible. It's really terrible. The way this is being handled and reacted to. I mean, the Republicans, his what he calls his rivals on the campaign trail, are saying, "Oh, this is terrible what they're doing to him. This is, the term they all used, which means that somebody there who told them, okay, this is the term to use today to describe this. They all called it the weaponization of the Justice Department.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weaponization.
Well, they've got a whole committee
sure,
investigating that
sure.
hasn't come up with anything.
Yeah, weaponization. Give me a break. No, it's it's the Justice Department doing their job.
Right.
And I'm, if he can't be indicted, then I can't be indicted, and none of us can be indicted for stuff. So let's try and get away with murder. You doing okay there, Jeff? You look like you were dozing off a little.
Staying away.
But it looks like, looking at your face, you got a lot of sun.
Well, it's
You got
actually,
rosacea.
I've been putting some
No, that's not rosacea. That's
cream on
burn.
on my skin.
Rosacea usually gets this part. Your
I
nose.
have it up here.
Oh, you do? What? I have it here.
But you know what this is, though? It gets red up here.
Yeah.
I was told by my doctor, you know how what you do to get rid of it? Put dandruff shampoo on it.
No,
Because
there's a prescription for it.
I've tried that. That almost
It sort of works for me.
sort of works. But what he said is that what it really is a form of dandruff.
Is it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And
Okay.
that you can get it to go away it can help go away by using dandruff shampoo. Put it on there for about 5 minutes, and
Well, this lotion is. Have you heard of the antibiotic Flagyl?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what this lotion is. This is Flagyl in a cream,
Yeah.
and so because they think it's related to bacteria. And I guess dandruff is a bacteria too.
I think it's a great way to end the show tonight, talking about scaling skin.
Thank you.
You know,
Or we could talk about how much I'm gonna miss Pat Robertson. Pat Robertson, my friend. I will see you one day. No, never mind.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can hear this, but
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat. Here comes Pat.
and we used
Here comes Pat.
we used to run that on the show and then play a clip of
Yeah.
Pat Robertson that day. We used to do that at Sirius XM,
I remember.
and I got to tell you, he was hilarious.
Yeah.
He could get hilarious. Yes,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Well, I listened to the show from Richard the other day for that hour and a half. It was about it.
What
It was
was it?
very well done.
Oh, you mean the Sheck Fest?
Yeah, from Shecky.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. A lot of those people I don't know, but
You didn't have to. You didn't have to.
No, I know. I really like to listen to
It
it.
was the whole thing was
Anyway.
very entertaining, and if
Yes.
anybody hasn't seen it, I have it. It's on YouTube. You can actually type in Sheck Fest, and it will show up on YouTube. And it's about an hour and 50 minutes, and you say, "Oh, well, that's awfully long, isn't it?" And I got to tell you, it's thoroughly entertaining from beginning to end.
It's a lot of people.
A lot of people,
Yeah.
and then
And
I had
I used to-
and then I had to follow Letterman.
Yeah. And you did a great job.
Yeah.
It was terrific. But I always get stuff from Checky. He would send little emails for me because I was always interested in old stuff that happened in the 30s,
Yeah.
in the 40s in New York. And he would always come up with something and send it to me. Maybe he sent it to a lot of other people, but I always said thanks to him. And
Well, what I wish you were here right now, because the last couple of days I've been spending my time watching the works of Clara Bow. Now, I don't know if anybody knows who Clara Bow was, but I think
know
if
the
you had to
name.
say that there was ever a woman who was a sex symbol in movies, she was the best. She was hot, and she was funny, and she was really a great performer. And I wish he were here so I could just say to him, "Hey, Shecky, I've been watching all this stuff on Clara Bow," and I said, you know, and I just love her, you know. And he'd probably agree with me on Clara Bow. I mean, but you know, it's one of the times where I say to myself, "Oh, gee, I wish I could be, you know, talking about Clara Bow with him." So
yeah.
anyway, I'm going to play the theme here. Gee, you know, the only people that called tonight were you guys. I don't know where anybody else was. I know Vernon Nunn was out there, but he never called. You know, so but it's fine. A nice conversation with some very intelligent people, and that's as it should be. Yes.
Because I missed an opportunity to send you something. Amazon said it'll arrive Monday.
Monday. What are you sending me?
Something nice.
Something nice. Okay. Because every now and then I get these mysterious packages from Amazon, and I say, I didn't order anything. You know.
No, I'll always tell you if I'm going to send you something.
Yeah. Well, no, it's nice. Thank you. Whatever it is. You know.
Okay.
Is
You'll see it Monday.
Is it a huge amount of cash? Maybe, but that'd be very nice.
Well, God, I didn't think about that. That was
Hey.
next time.
Well, I don't care if nobody else called. To the ones who didn't call, yeah. I don't think they can demonetize me for that, because that's just my I'm scratching.
That's right,
my
you were
nose
just
here.
scratching. You were just
Scratching my
scratching.
nose. Anyway, hey, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Alan. I appreciate your being here. And everybody, give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. Okay, there they go, ladies and gentlemen. That's our citizen panel for the night. That's our citizen panel for this week. I'll be back again on Monday with the pop-up program. It'll show up on Facebook. Who I'm having trouble just posting these shows on Facebook, so you know I still got to solve that problem. Anyway, we'll see you there at 4 o'clock, and then on Wednesday at 10:30, same time, same station in life. In the meantime, Jack Bishop is next with The Intersection. He'll be taking calls on Skype at Gabnet Live. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, yeah, you know what to do. Tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody. Have a nice weekend.